Hey everyone! Before we start this episode of FECast, where Tempest Dragon King and I go over our first impressions of the new set Echoes of Eternity, I have a huge announcement. Friends of Eternal has a Patreon! Sorry, I was just so excited I had to interrupt myself. That's right, Friends of Eternal now has a Patreon where you can help support the show and other projects and initiatives from Friends of Eternal. We just launched the Patreon page 2 days ago, but we already have 3 wonderful patrons, so I want to give a huge shout out to Yeastout, D-Dub, and Chrissier for their support of Friends of Eternal. I'm so appreciative that you have so much faith in what we're doing here. And without any further ado, let's begin episode 16 of FECast, Echoes of Eternity with Darkest Tempest, also known as Tempest Dragon King. Hello everyone, and welcome to FECast, the official podcast of Friends of Eternal. Echoes of Eternity just released this week. It's really exciting. We've got a brand new set with tons of cards, and tons of cards that, in particular, really change the way the game is played. We'll get into that in just a bit, but first let me introduce my guest for this week. Welcome, Tempest Dragon King, a prolific member of the Friends of Eternal Discord. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing alright. This meta really is something.
It is something, and yeah, we'll get into that in a bit. But first on the docket, we need to talk about the big news coming out this week. Echoes of Eternity is finally here. The set number 8 in Eternal. It's really exciting. I think that despite anything else that we might have to say about it, it is very exciting. And, well, there are a lot of game changers. One of the big game changers is that Expedition is completely shaken up. Now, I haven't looked too closely at this. My focus is going to be on the ECQ coming up this next weekend, but from what I can tell, the Expedition pool is entirely different. Any notions that you had about the Expedition format are not a safe bet to be carried over into this next Expedition format, except for the fact that Set 7 is all there.
Yeah, all of Set 7 got there. Everything else, it's a gamble.
Yeah, have you looked closely at the changes to Expedition? And if you have, do you have any first impressions on what the format's going to be like?
I've not looked closely, but yeah, there's a lot of options. And Argent Port got a lot of love too. While Tazboo's gone, they've got Bar Solo, Bloodletter, the New Defile, a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, and I'm sure we're going to take a much closer look at that after the ECQ. And, well, when we have to prepare for an Expedition tournament, there's probably going to be a lot of space to explore for brewers like myself. And I'm really looking forward to it. In addition to the release of Echoes of Eternity, there is a special event this weekend. It's called the Blind Date event, probably alluding to Valentine's Day. The rules of the Blind Date event is that when you play your first unit in a turn, you will also play a random unit with the same cost. So some people have pointed out that you can probably just play Secret Weapon and get an 8-drop on turn 2. I don't know if this is exactly how it's going to work, but it definitely seems like it's going to... That's how it's going to work.
Well, if it works that way, get your Zolta Loyalists, your Secret Weapons, and your Tomarises ready, because they're gonna get some action.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Tamaris. That's a good one. And in addition to the normal prizes that are going to be part of this event in the form of packs, there's also going to be Alt Art Seek Powers. Seek Power, of course, a card that people play in almost every deck, and this is going to be the first chance to get an Alt Art Seek Power. So be sure to check it out. That's going to be starting on Friday and running through very early Monday morning, right? I guess it depends on what part of the world you're in, but it's probably going to run till Monday morning.
Yep, looks pretty cool, too.
All right, the big thing on my mind, and probably your mind too, is the Throne ECQ coming up the following weekend. We're talking February 21st through 23rd. This is going to be the 4th ECQ. Yeah, this is going to be the 4th ECQ in the season. We already have had 3 winners. They have been not in order. Bruised by God, Kolokoma, and... Shoot, who beat out Collector? Meal or something on Cambrai, big Cambrai. No, it was Lights Out Ace, of course. How could I forget that?
Why did we forget about Lights Out Ace?
I was thinking about the Throne Championship, which doesn't make sense because the last DCQ was Expedition. But you also have two winners there. We have Meal and the person that beat, I think Monero made it to the finals, but someone beat them. I don't remember. Anyway, we have 5 slots for Worlds locked up, and this is going to be the 4th out of, I believe, 6 ECQs. So this should be really exciting. And I mean, this is the opportunity for if you're a brewer out there, you think you can build decks better than other people. Well, here's your chance. Here's a new set. You have all of Echoes of Eternity to work with. There's a lot of cool stuff going on in the set. Here's your chance to come out with something that people aren't ready for and take down a tournament.
The world's your oyster.
Sure is.
And I'm completely lost in it.
Yeah, we'll get to what we've been playing in Throne so far in a bit. But first, let's go over some of the cards that we missed. Last week, I had a very, very long discussion with Stormblessed about some of the cards that we thought were going to be a large impact in Constructed coming out of Echoes of Eternity. You can go back and review that episode. We're not going to go through it ourselves, but we're just going to go over some cards that we had not yet seen, but think are going to make a big impact. Why don't you lead us off, Darkest Tempest?
Yep. First of all, we have all 5 of the chants. These are basically what are replacing the cargoes. And while you always draw power, when you have double influence in all 3 factions of the chant, you can decimate to invoke those 3 colors. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah, these chants are strictly better versions of the cargo. It's, well, I guess not entirely strictly based on how you judge the invoke versus the way that the cargo works, but generally speaking, these are better versions of the cargo.
I think the invoke system is better than the cargo system, personally.
Yes, because you're guaranteed to see a unit, a spell, and an attachment. And there are times where you just need any unit to chump block or to trade with something that your opponent has or to pressure a side or something like that.
And then you get a 9-drop when you have 8 power.
Well, that can certainly happen. Yeah, I suppose that certainly can happen. But these are better versions of the cargo. And here's why. It took me a second to wrap my head around it. So the base case is that you always get to search for your power. And if you decimate it, then it's like casting... If you decimate it, then it's like playing a contraband, except you get +1 additional power that turn because you get to search up a power and you can play it. I guess technically there are situations where it might be a little different than how contraband works, but for the most part, playing and decimating will have the same effect as contraband. It's just that you can always just find the power if that's what you're after. And I think that was actually a major drawback of cargo, is that sometimes it was contraband when you didn't want it to be contraband yet.
But imagine this thing with E-Laws as elite.
Oh man, yeah, that sounds fantastic.
I want to do that.
Yeah, I don't know if E-Laws' elite is going to be great in like these 3 faction decks, but that does sound very nice, just getting free cards. For those of you who don't know off the top of your head, E-Laws' elite is the 2-drop from set 7 that says when you decimate your power, well, you basically get to retain your power. You get to decimate for free.
And he's a 2-mana 1 for Injustice and Shadow.
Yeah. All right, on to another big player. We have the market spells. These are really interesting. I think they're all fast spells. There's 1 for each faction. They all cost 1, and they all have a small effect, and then they all get access to the market. So I'll read off the primal one right now. It's called Transpose. It's a 1-cost fast spell and with single primal influence requirement. It says deal 1 damage to the enemy player. You gain an Aegis. You may swap a card from your hand with a 4-cost card in your black market. There's also
1 for 2, 3, 5, and 1.
Yes, so between the 5 different market spells that we have, you can have access to cards that cost from 1 to 5. And there's no influence requirement, which is important to note, but it does have to be a black market. And these are interesting. I don't know how these are going to be utilized, but I think it's one of the only ways to access the market in Expedition, and we'll definitely see what the best way to use these are.
It is the only way to access the market in Expedition.
Well, I mean, aside from Bargain, but yeah.
Screw Bargain.
Bargain's pretty messed up. So I don't expect these cards to make a big impact in Throne, so we're not going to be talking about them a ton right away. But boy, these are going to require a whole new chapter of deck building.
Yep, they're going to definitely make a splash in Expedition. And they might even make a Throne impact in deck too aggressive to want Merchant or Smugglers. The Fire and Shadow ones in particular. The Fire one deals 2 damage to a unit and gets a 2 power card from the black market. That's called Blazing Salvo. And the Shadow one's Transpose, which is lifesteal and deals 1 damage to an enemy. And if it kills it, it gets Voidbound. And that gets a 1 power card from the black market.
Yeah, when you said Blazing Salvo, I thought you were making an MTG reference to a card called Blazing Salvo that's not very good. But no, I think that Blazing Salvo is probably the most playable of the market spells. It deals 2 damage to a unit, so it's kind of like a Char. Char probably doesn't kill enough in Throne, but in Expedition, that could be what you're looking for. And it does it at fast speed. I think that's going to be the biggest impact.
They're all playable.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. It's going to be interesting. All right, on to more cards that we didn't see last time around. There are 2 fire cards that I think are going to be players. They're not going to be absolute bombs and dominate formats, but I do think that they're going to make it into a bunch of decks, and they are Seer and Fury Blade. Seer is a 2-cost fast spell in fire, and it just does 3 damage to a unit, a player, or a site, anything. And I just think that this has enough utility that it's going to see play. I'm excited to try it out in Spellcrag, and it's one of the few cards that can take down a Teacher of Humility on turn 2, as well as kill a Regent's Tomb and stop a Relic Weapon from hitting you. If someone plays a Runehammer, they hit something, and then they try to hit a second thing with it, you can stop it with Seer.
Kairos' Choice can only do most of those things and can only be played in Prax. This can be played in Skyscrag, Stone Scar, Rakano, whatever.
Monofire, yeah. The other card I think is going to see play is Fury Blade, and it's very simple. It's a 1-cost Relic Weapon that's a 2/1. That's it. No text.
That's good, right?
Yeah, so I think that the use of Fury Blade is actually going to be in aggro decks. It's kind of like having a 2-power charge unit. So I think a situation that's going to come up pretty quickly is you play Fury Blade on turn 1, you hit them, then they play their Initiative Sands or whatever, and you just kill it with the Fury Blade.
Or you could turn that around and play a unit that likes Relic Weapons on turn 1, and then play Fury Blade and another 1-drop turn 2.
Yeah, there is... Oh, we didn't write it in the show notes, but there is a new fire unit that likes Relic Weapons. It's called Kazuo Melee Virtuoso. It's a 1-cost 2/1 in fire. When you play a Relic Weapon, play a +1 weapon with Overwhelm on Kazuo and ultimate pay 4 to invoke fire. That ultimate doesn't seem great in Constructed, but you can attack for 5 on turn 2 with Kazuo plus a Fury Blade. I just think that Fury Blade does something that we haven't had.
Oh, definitely.
We just haven't been able to play a Relic Weapon on a good with a good rate at 1 or 2 in Eternal's history. And I think that Fury Blade does that.
The closest we've ever gotten was Talon of Nostrix, and that's a 2/2 on 2.
Yeah, or Charchain Flail, which can be a 2/1 on turn 2. But the difference between costing 1 and costing 2 is tremendous. I think that decks that are looking to recur Relic Weapons, maybe they still just want Charchain Flail over Fury Blade, but I think that Fury Blade is a card that should make a bunch of lists, I think. Is it going to make every list? I'm not sure, but I do think it's going to make an impact in Constructed.
Also of note, both can be grabbed with that 1 power with the Shadow Market spell, just as a note.
That is a good point. All right, why don't you tell us about this next card on the list, Kodash's Stranger.
Yeah, that's a big old stranger, alright. 3 mana, Justice, 2/2. When a player plays a stranger, the top unit or weapon of their deck gets attack and health equal to that stranger's attack and health, which means it gets +2/+2 from Kodash's Stranger, and when Kodash's Stranger attacks, double his attack and health.
Yeah, so this gets some value right away. It's basically getting a Warcry immediately, Warcry 2, and this attacks as a 4/4 with no other modifications necessary. And if you get to attack twice, watch out.
Yeah, like, yeah, he seems pretty good, but kind of seems one of the less impressive of the cycle.
I don't know. I actually played with a Makar Stranger in Limited, and I was actually kind of underwhelmed. Like, I don't know. I think that the rate on this is, and it's threatening enough on its own that this could see play. I don't know.
Oh, you can see play, definitely. They all can see play.
Yeah, I don't know where it's going to see play. Well, I'm not actually sure that the 5 cost strangers are good enough. Anyway, that's another discussion. Stormblessed and I talked about this in the last cast.
Yeah. We'll not get into it again. Just the strangers are weird. We may see some of them pop up.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. I don't
It's
think this
next.
card is necessarily a stranger deck card because the strangers, the Justice Strangers, as you mentioned, are not necessarily the best. But it just seems like a card that could make an aggro deck. Anyway,
It's a better order to Spire. That's good.
yeah, exactly. All right, on to the next one. A lot of people are going to love the artwork on this one. Gentle Grazer. It's a 4-cost sloth. For triple time, it's a 3/2 ambush. Now, that doesn't seem too exciting, but it has someone play a random non-power card with cost 2 or less from your deck. You know what? Cost 2 or less? Even-handed Golem.
Even-handed golem. Not that this thing played an even-handed golem on me when it was ambushed from an even-handed golem deck, but it's definitely played Power Stone, Temple Scribe, other stuff.
Yeah, I think that the random high roll you get from possibly getting even-handed Golem makes this pretty terrifying in even decks, and a part of why I think even decks are going to do pretty well in the immediate future. But someone also mentioned in Discord that you could play a bunch of merchants for Call of the Ancients, the one that creates 2/2.
Oh yes, Call the Ancients. That's really fun. It makes Titans.
Yes, 6/6 Aegis Endurance Titans that cost 2. So if you have nothing that costs less than 2 in your deck, you hit a merchant, you play Call the Ancients, you play Gentle Grazer, all of a sudden you have an ambush 6/6 Endurance Aegis 4/4.
But then you're not playing anything on 1 or 2, and that seems like a bad idea.
Yeah, well, we'll see how much damage Hailstorm can do in order to save us. But
Hang on a minute. Another very, very dumb idea. This thing can play Torgov's Trading Post.
Yeah, that's the other thing we were talking about, is you could have Torgov's Trading Post, and that can play Call the Ancients itself. This might play another Torgov's Trading Post instead, or it might hit one of the Ancients, which would be great. There's a few things going on here. By the way, I just totally forgot when I was reading the card that has Corrupted 6 for some reason. So
yes,
when this dies, you get a 0/2 that you can activate for 6 to get a random 2-drop from your deck. Anyway,
I mean that's value.
Yeah. So what happens when you play a site on your opponent's turn? I don't believe this has.
I'm also wondering about this. This has not come up.
Yeah, I don't think this has come up in the past. And hey, maybe we'll see Gentle Grazer in addition or in conjunction with Torgov's Trading Post.
You know what's also funny with this Travers Farm? You make all the strangers cheaper.
Oh, and then you can get a 3-cost stranger. But if you're playing a stranger deck, you probably have a lot of like junk strangers, you know?
You could just load up on Magnificent Strangers, which also results in a funny pull of maybe a super high-powered thing.
That is true. All right, let's get on to the next one in our list. I think this has a shot of being the best card in the set. I think. And this is...
I also think so.
Yeah, this is Damara Deft Saboteur. There we go. It's a 2-cost... Damara? Do you know someone with that name? Because I have no idea.
It just sounds like right to me. Don't quote me on this.
Well, okay, so here's why I think it's Damara, is because there's a famous opera singer whose last name is Damro, And it just sounds like, it could be originating from the same thing or have the same ethnic background or something like that. Okay, listeners out there, if you know how to pronounce this card, please let us know.
I'll leave it to your digression on this.
I'm not an expert on this. All right, so Damra is a 3/1 for 2 in Shadow. It's an elf rogue with ambush, unblockable while attacking sites, and has an ultimate that says pay 5 to draw a card of your choice from the enemy player's market.
This card is great. He's single shadow. She, he, them. They're single shadow.
Yeah, I don't see any identifying features on this card. So your opponent plays anything. they play something showing you that they're a combo deck, right? Let's say they play Common Cause Merchant. And you're like, oh, my opponent's playing Invoke combo. Well, why don't I just play Damra at the end of their turn 4, play my 5th power, and go ahead and draw, see what from the market they have that I can draw from it. Oh, they didn't put their Diogo in the... they didn't get their Diogo during their first trip to the market? Well, I'll just take that, and I think the game's over.
They didn't get Celestial open? Oh, man.
Yeah, so the decks that really rely on the market to combo, I think are just going to get overrun by Damra. That also includes Tower Combo, I think is pretty soft for this. And in addition to that, it just seems like a great card against control decks. The big weakness to things that have 1 health historically are cards like Vara's Favor and Snowball. And those are cards that are slow. So you at least get a swing in with Damra before they get to, kill it with value with one of those.
And unless Ruinous Burst or Rock Slide see major play, Damra's pretty safe. You gotta capture all the angles, right?
Yeah. And the one thing I should note is this card is not spectacular against even decks. So we were just talking about Gentle Grazer and its potential impact in even decks. Damra,
nope.
If Damra has a weakness, it is against even decks, I believe.
They don't have a market. Also against aggro decks that don't have sites or markets.
Yeah, it's just going to trade with the Sand Warrior or something, or any random unit that they paid 2 for out of that deck.
But FGS, oh man, you played a Regent's Tomb. Time to attack that tomb down and then draw another thing from the market.
Yeah, imagine just killing people with their own Icarias from their market. I guess FJS probably plays multiple Icarias, but they don't play it in the market.
No, imagine killing them with their own Rezon. They're going to put that in the market.
Yeah. So this one, watch out for it. Your opponent has 2 power at the end of their turn, at the end of your turn, rather. They're playing Shadow. They might be putting in a Damra. Okay, why don't you tell us about this next one?
All right, let's see here. We have Ancestral Oasis, and it's part of a cycle of Invoke card at rare. It's 4 mana, 4 power, time influence, +2 maximum power, pay 2 and sacrifice Ancestral Oasis to invoke time. This minus being a slightly steeper influence cost is a better Eternity Core. It's going to see constructed play. There's historically been Praxis decks, Combray decks that really like using Eternity Core. This is a modal Eternity Core with which, once you have ramped all the way to the moon, have like 12 or more power, you can bust this and make something huge. Maybe.
Maybe, yeah. I think it's just a slight upgrade on Eternity Core. I don't think it's earth-shattering how good this is.
No,
but
it's pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's a safe bet to see some play somewhere in decks that would otherwise want Eternity Core. Or maybe a deck would want both. I mean, there's no reason you can't run 4 of these and 4 Eternity Cores if you're really going for super high amounts of power.
Yeah, that's a lot of ramp. There is another one of this cycle that I wanted to highlight. The Justice one. Master's Blade. It's 3 power, single justice for a 1/1 weapon. Yeah, that seems bad, right? But it has +1/+1 for each of the wielder's battle skills, and Spellcraft 1, play Fall Short. And it has Mastery 7, invoke justice.
So I guess the dream scenario is that you play it for a very large bonus get to fall short something that your opponent has and invoke on the same turn. So what type of unit are you planning on putting this on?
You'll want to put it on something like an Unseen Commando. I know because I've done it. Unseen Commando is a great target for this thing.
All right, so you gain a bunch of life, and I guess you get to attack for 5 immediately. Is that right? Flying lifesteal?
No, 6. The weapon itself is +1/+1. It's
So close.
+3/+3.
All right, so if you have 2 unseen commandos, then you get to invoke immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this weapon's going to see some play in certain decks at some point down the line.
All right. On to next one. And I think this one's a bit of a. Well, I'm the jury is still out for me as to whether this is going to see play or not. This is Savage Incursion.
I've been bopped by it.
Oh, this one? Oh boy.
Yeah.
It's a 5-cost primal spell, not a fast spell, just a normal speed spell called Savage Incursion. It says deal 3 damage. If the enemy player has 10 or more cards in their void, draw 3 cards. If they have 20 or more, play 3 6/4 dragons with flying and overwhelm. So it's kind of like a 5-cost Channel the Tempest if your opponent has 10 or more cards in their void. Doing 3 damage for 5 power is like really not a ton. I don't think you can reliably kill things with that. But if you get to draw 3 cards with it, I think that, well, if you can reliably draw 3 cards, I think that this will see play. Some people have talked about playing Channel the Tempest in Spellcrag, and I think this would be a better rate for it.
However, Spellcrag is not where this thing shined. Do you remember Tome of Horrors?
Yes, I do remember Tome of Horrors.
That is where this card is going to shine. Tome of Horrors can easily put 10 cards in a void.
Yeah, and I guess you get to draw 3 cards. But I feel like if you're spending all of those resources putting cards into your opponent's voids, then dealing 3 damage for 5 power is not going to be enough of a board impact, right? Because you have to give up some amount of board control in order to start milling your opponent.
But you pair this with actual just removal spells of Felm, and yeah, Tome of Horrors is just a market thing that you do, just as an alternate win condition, and to take your opponent's cards.
All right, well, yeah, we'll see if this sees play. It's definitely an interesting card. Next up is Kato, Arena Herald. This one's pretty wild. It's a 2-cost fire card. It's a 2/1 and has summon, play a 0/1 Totemite. If you have 10 or more units in your void, units, not just card, units, play an 8/8 giant instead, corrupted 1. So the obvious application for this card is some sort of tokens deck, like a Praxis tokens deck, where you just have a ton of units. That way the 2/1 plus the 0/1 are worth it for you. Oh, did I forget to mention again? It has corrupted 1.
Yes, it can do it again.
Yeah, when it dies, it leaves behind a 0/1. You can pay 1 to get a Totemite.
Or a giant.
Do you think it counts itself when checking to see if you have 10 units in your void?
I think it might.
I think it does, because things that check about that, like Marsh Dragon, for example, if you sacrifice your first unit with Marsh Dragon, it gets +0/+1.
Yes.
So I would imagine if this is the 10th card that goes to your void on the corrupted side, then, or the 10th unit specifically, then you'll get the giant. And in any case, I think that this is just pretty good. How many other cards do we have that cost 2 and provide 2 bodies? Like Nahid's Choice, that just made 2 1/1s? Like, that was a card that saw a significant amount of play.
The obvious comparison here is Grenadin and Drone, but this card is a lot better than Grenadin and Drone.
Well, it also costs twice as much.
Yes.
In any case, Kato, Arena Herald, watch out.
Yeah, can see splashes in Reanimator and token strategies around the world.
Ooh, I don't think you're playing this in Reanimator. Like, what's an 8/8 going to do? If you've spent your entire game trying to fill up your void and do a Reanimator game plan, I just don't think that a random 8/8 is going to be able to win the game for you.
I mean, not 1/8/8, but if you have sack fodder, ooh, actually, you could use this guy as sack fodder and like the display of creation.
Ooh, you know what else I just realized? You could use this with Aramot's Machinations. Okay, we're getting some really good ideas here.
Oh yes, Fire Time Shadow. Let's go. This is where this guy belongs.
I know what I'm doing after the podcast. I hope you do too.
Excellent.
All right, more Void shenanigan cards. Why don't you tell us about Unlock the Vault?
Yeah, I saw this card and was like, what? This is 6 power. Fire time. Influence. Unlock the vault. Play a relic weapon, a non-weapon relic, and a non-relic weapon from your void. Yes, you're hearing that right. It may not be obvious what you play when you first see that card, but relic weapon is obvious. You play a relic that is not a weapon, like Eternity Core or Waystone Gate, and a non-relic weapon, like Warhorn, Rock Carapace, I guess.
The non-relic weapons are not terribly exciting for this. I think we need to take a look and see what there is out there that's actually really good for this.
You want 2 of the lines of this, typically.
Yes. So I think we're on the same page as far as playing a relic weapon and a
A non-weapon.
a non-weapon relic. Yes. So somehow you fill your void with something like Pit of Lanekta and there's a new weapon that's absolutely huge in fire. It costs like 11 or something. It's 11.9 or something.
It's 9. It's 9 and it's an 11-7. Shafka's Embrace, I think it is. Shafka's Embrace.
Yeah, so basically you just want the biggest relic and the biggest weapon, and you're playing some sort of weird Unlock the Vault Reanimator deck to get both of them in play at the same time. There's some interesting stuff you could do if you can work Horde Plunderer into this. Like, somehow getting Spellcraft for free can maybe do something good, but it's going to be a puzzle to put this one together, similar to, I guess, Aramount's Machinations, which we talked about last week.
It might just go in Sentinel Reanimator. Just dump things with Amaran Shoveler and Pompous Historian. Those are weird cards.
Yeah, it would be weird because most of the things...
It's not inspiring.
Yeah, most of the things like Stirring Sands or the one that brings back a Sentinel back, right?
Yeah.
That just doesn't care about any of the weapons that you might be putting into the Void. So, I don't know. Well, I think that this is a card that's worth considering if you're a brewer. It's not immediately clear what the application is going to be. There's one more card I want to mention, and that is Solar Blast. It's a 7-cost fast spell with primal requirement, and it says deal 7 damage to each unit in sight. So remember how we were talking about touches previously?
Yep.
Someone on Reddit managed to get... This was actually in limited, which was even more impressive.
Limited? Whoa.
Yeah. They got a touch, the Deadly Touch, which is the Time Touch, and the Overwhelm Touch, which is the Primal Touch.
Touch of Wild and Touch of Battle? Oh my god.
Yeah, on Solar Blast. They got both of them on Solar Blast, which means that this spell had deal 7 damage to each unit in sight with Deadly and Overwhelm. Actually, you know what? They might have had double damage also, but I think that's not necessary, which means that
that's overkill.
Well, it's killing all of your opponent's units at fast speed and dealing 6 for each unit that dies. So, I'm not sure that this is a card that's definitely going to make it. It's much more expensive than other sweepers we've seen. Also, its influence requirements are difficult, but there are interesting applications that you can have for it.
This might be a potential sweeper in a big, huge Elysian ramp deck.
Ah, that's true. You can ramp to it.
And you could use Trailmaker to get the influence.
You're probably not playing Trailmaker if you're playing a bunch of sweepers, right? But it is interesting in that sometimes it's felt like control decks just splash Justice for a sweeper, and Primal is like has more tools for control, I guess, than Justice typically has. So this gives you an option to not have to play Justice for your sweeper.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now that we've talked about the cards from Echo's Eternity that we're excited about, how do you feel about the metagame? Like, what have you been playing in Throne so far? What's worked? What hasn't worked? Why don't you go ahead and start us off with this next section?
Well, I've rammed a bit of Arcano into didn't work. Then I opened like 3 purpose chants and built Justice Primal Shadow Unseen. That actually did okay, but it got ran over by the old favorites, Combrian Elysian. And then I played Strangers, gave up. And that's fun, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it seems like at least right off the bat, the decks that were good are still good. And I guess that's to be expected. If someone was able to build and tune a new deck in 24 hours after a set release, well, they deserve a medal.
I'm just disappointed that the old decks are still around. Sody Spell Shaper, man. I've seen enough.
Personally, I've just been playing weird, janky combo decks. I made a Reddit post with the strange combo. This uses a combo that I was talking about in last week's episode, where you use Strange Sorcerer, which is the stranger that replenishes a power whenever a player plays a stranger, and you use Soaring Stranger to make all of your units have flying, all of your strangers have flying, and you can use Strange Sorcerer to pay for to draw cards. You use these in conjunction with Cost Reduction and Tutor and Copy effects in order to have a lot of Strange Sorcerers, so that, say you have 3 Strange Sorcerers on the field, you draw a bunch of cards, you play a cheap stranger, maybe the one that just only costs 1, and all of a sudden you're replenishing 3 power. You play another stranger, all of a sudden you have enough power to draw off a Strange Sorcerer again. It's pretty cool. Check it out. I'll post a link to a video clip where I draw like over 10 cards in one turn on turn 5. It's pretty awesome.
Yep, strangers can do a lot of cool combo stuff. Keep an eye out for them.
Yeah, especially since they have 2 tutors in Reunite and Traverse Farm, which I guess is just 4 more copies of Reunite, really.
Also, strangers have a tutor for dragons.
I guess. Yeah, I haven't figured out that combo yet. The other combo that I've been working on has been an old favorite. It is the Glimpse combo. So it's Glimpse of Possibilities, which gives all cards in your deck warp, and then you have things that reduce the cost of of warp cards, such as Workshop Forge or Trickster Mage, I believe, reduces the cost by 1.
Yes.
So basically, you get into a situation where you reduce the cost of all the cards in your deck enough so that they're free, and you play your entire deck in 1 turn, and you just figure out some way to beat them, which usually involves like a Market Obelisk to turn a bunch of useless units into units that can actually attack for some amount. And I'm using
combat tricks.
Yeah, and I'm using Death Pit in order to give them charge. There's probably other ways of having win conditions, but once you draw your deck, the win condition doesn't really matter that much. Anyway, you might be wondering, well, what happens if you hit 2 power in a row? Like, yeah, you can play anything that costs 0. What happens if you hit 2 power? Well, the deck plays, I don't know, I don't remember the count off the top of my head, but it's either 12 or 16 Seek Power effects in order to find every sigil in the deck. There are no power sources that provide 2 different influence. It operates solely on sigils, which can be found by the Seek Power effects, and standards, which become spells that you can play for free. I mean, they just, with the cost reduction, you get to play them for free, and you have a few things that let you play an extra power every turn. The addition of Display of Destruction and Chant of Destruction, or Destructive Chant, I don't know what the naming convention is, but those are 2 cards from the new set that have really been helping this out a lot.
I believe it's Destructive Chant, but anyway.
Yeah, onto serious constructed talk. As far as what the actual metagame looks like, I think even is probably still good. I just don't think that Armory is powerful enough to really be great in this day and age. I feel like answering 1 unit every turn, like if your main game plan is to have a weapon that can answer a unit every turn and that can get melted down or something, I just don't think that's good enough, you know?
Yeah. Though if your removal's good enough, then maybe.
I guess so. We didn't get a ton of good removal. I don't know. I just don't feel like that's necessarily the place to be. And also, you have to deal with things like Ikaria or Naoki or like just Meltdown. I just don't think like the supposed return of Armory is going to be as foretold, so to speak.
It might not be as smooth as one would originally think. I haven't seen much armory myself. There's a reason for that.
Anyway, so with the ECQ coming up in a week, I know it's still early, the metagame has not settled yet, but what do you think your pick is for decks that are probably going to be good in the ECQ next weekend? I know that these are just shots in the dark, but let's hear some predictions.
Decks that I don't want to play. Even Elysian aggro / tempo, the Combre aggro stuff, the Combre mid-range, Stone Scar, Praxis, I guess? Yeah, I might end up playing Praxis.
That's interesting, because those are decks that I wasn't thinking of. I was thinking that Stone Scar is going to be really good, especially with the new 2-drop. I always thought that Black Hole Ward Leader was a little underwhelming. Getting Damarai, I think, is a huge deal for Stone Scar. It also helps against control decks a lot. And like you said, I think the even-handed decks
Getting who?
Damara, that's the 3/1 ambush.
Oh, yeah, right.
Right, yeah.
Carry on.
But yeah, I mean, I think Combre is looking pretty good. It would be really cool if one of these combo decks was good enough, like either the Stranger combo deck or the Glimpse combo deck. It would be a dream if the Glimpse combo deck was good enough. It's probably miserable to play against, but it's so hard to play that deck optimally. I mean, I've had probably about as much experience playing the deck as anyone has, and I was just... my stream was Punt City. It was so bad.
Yeah, I saw a bit of that. Oof.
Yeah, oof is right. But next week's episode is probably going to have a much more accurate view of what to expect in the ECQ if you're planning on playing in that, or if you're just planning on spectating. We'll see where the metagame lands. I'm excited to brew with some of these cards. I think that, well...
I am too. I just hope Teacher Humility doesn't ruin like 5 games in a row again. I want to run into some cool cards.
Yeah, have answers for the old standbys though, because they're sure to show up.
Yeah, the old standbys are gonna be there and gonna try to geek.
All right, let's talk about draft for a little bit. Now, before we get on to this section, I just want to say that I will be hosting a draft summit with Cassandrith and hopefully Kalevich, or I don't think Man Mouse plays anymore, but sometimes a new set brings him back. But we've had these draft summits for the...
Here's hoping he comes back.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We've had this draft summit for the past few sets, and it's been great. I think it's been great to see other people's perspective on draft, and I think it's been helpful. We'll definitely have one of those where it's just an hour to an hour and a half just talking about draft. Let's get some quick hits in here. Darkest Tempest, have you been drafting much with this new set?
I've drafted some with the new set. It's pretty fun. But also, something that was somewhat apparent with the transition set and is even more apparent now. This set is really high-powered. Like, really, really high-powered.
Yeah, you were saying that, and I actually don't know that I agree. I think the power is just shifted to the more expensive cards. We've had sets where the expensive cards just aren't very good. This set is definitely not the case. There's the 5/4 that drains for 3 when you play it at 5. And most of the 2-drops and 3-drops you play are pretty small. They're like 2 2s or 2 3s. They aren't even...
But they're value engines.
I guess so. Yeah, I mean Rectifier. We'll get into that.
Rectifier's a 3-drop.
Yeah, Rectifier is a pretty absurd card.
But like Outcast Elite, the Justice Aegis 2/1 that gives unseen battle skills, the Covetous Stranger that makes strangers draw treasure trove. There's also cheap tricks, freaking Majestic Skies, Sorcerer's Wand.
Oh, Sorcerer's Wand's pretty insane, but that's another expensive card, isn't it?
Yeah, you've just got very, very strong cards. And they're printed at rarities that you wouldn't think they're printed at, but they are.
So let's talk about Rectifier and the Rectifier meta for a second.
We all know it. We all love them. It's Rectifier.
Are you sure we love them? Because I had a draft earlier today with 4 Rectifier, and I was just like, I hate my existence. Games were taking like 35 minutes. It was just misery incarnate.
I kind of live for the 35-minute games.
Okay, well, I don't.
I win in some dumb way.
So Rectifier, for those of you who don't know, it's a 3-cost 2/1 that's a summon silence an enemy unit. Corrupted, I don't remember what the corrupted is.
Corrupted 2.
Corrupted 2, all right. So basically you get 2 silences off of it, and it's very good. I mean, like you said, there's just a lot of really powerful value engines that, just lines of text on cards that generate a lot of value. And Rectifier basically says no to that, and it says no to it twice, and it's a common, and it's just very good.
But it's not that simple, Sonny. He has to die.
Yes, that is true.
Which means you can do some really funny things with Rectifier against a more skilled player.
Like just attacking?
Not just that. He wears weapons well.
No, that's true.
Put a bear arms on him. See how it goes. I did that.
All right. Now that we've talked about Rectifier, can we talk about one of my favorite cards?
Yeah.
Did you see me playing with this in the last 2 days?
I saw a bit of it.
It is the Hook Sword! Shugo's Hook Sword.
Yep, big old sword.
Yep, it's a 7-cost, 7/5 relic weapon, double fire. I don't even have the card in front of me. I just know what it does. It's that close to my heart already. 7/5 relic weapon. Whenever you do damage, play a 2/2 Oni. So you bash a 7/7 with it. It trades, and you get a 2/2 Oni left over. Your opponent has a 4/4 and a 3/3. You bash the 4/4, you get an Oni. You chump block the 3/3, you bash the 3/3, you get another Oni. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. There are ways to tutor it up. There's I forget the name of the card, but there's a 4-cost Oni that searches up weapons. So you really only need one of these, and it just does everything that I want to do in draft. I didn't know how much I had been missing it until I started playing with it.
Also, the 4-cost has corrupted. Thank you, corrupted.
Yes, corrupted printed on many cards for some reason.
For good reason, I'd say.
Yeah. So one last thing I need to say about the Hook Sword is that if you have a torch, I guess torch is not in the draft format. That's just off of Rebel Illuminator. If you have a seer, that is a card that you can actually draft, and you seer something while you have the Hook Sword, you get the Oni. It's fantastic. Oh my god, it is beautiful. I can't stop thinking of how beautiful it is.
Also, speaking of cards that were in the draft format but are no longer in the draft format, rip Unstable form again. I had a draft with 2 of them. I'll miss it. I'll miss turning a 0/1 Rectifier Shade into a Mazag.
Oh, I guess we had that for a week. That is pretty insane.
I loved it. That's one of my favorite draft nonsense moments.
Man, yeah, corrupted units they retain their cost. So,
yep.
Oh man, I wonder if that has constructed applications.
I actually wonder that too.
I guess we'll find out. Anyway, I think we've babbled enough for one day. Thanks for joining me today, Darkest Tempest. Do you have anything else you'd like to share before we call it a day?
I'm surprised that I didn't play dragons despite pulling a Carvet, I guess. I wanted to experience the dragons for myself before I crafted them, and I think I've experienced enough.
Are you talking about the new Carvet or the Carvet from set 7?
New Carvet.
Oh, yeah.
I opened one of them. He's sweet.
I don't think it's very good. It's just worse than the Pledge Trifaction legend, isn't it?
Helps play Tolek.
Yeah, I suppose so. I don't want to be relying on my 5-drop surviving in order to get my influence, though.
I know, but sometimes you want to. Also, he helps you play Flashfire if he survives long enough.
Oh my god, are we really talking about a Carvet Flashfire deck?
It's a thought that entered my head, okay? That doesn't mean it's good.
Oh, man. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I hope your adventures in Throne go a little more smoothly over these next few days.
They will. I just had a drop of bad luck, that's all.
For those of you out there listening, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. If you enjoyed this podcast, we are on Spotify, we're on SoundCloud, we're on iTunes. I post videos of these on my YouTube channel, so you should be able to find them and be able to subscribe and stay tuned for our latest episodes. And a few plugs I must give. As I mentioned in the introduction, we have a Patreon. And we have patrons. We don't just have a patron, we have patrons. It's been less than 2 days, and some people have generously donated to the show, and we thank them so much. I'm just going to give them a quick shout out right now. Gistout, D-Dub, and Chris Ye, thank you so much for your donations. We really appreciate it. You guys are helping Friends of Eternal do Friends of Eternal things. Okay, I was really excited about the Patreon, but I'm also really excited about the Piloting Club. This is an initiative led by Camomilk where we break down video of people playing games and try to figure out how to improve people's play. If you are serious about improving your play in Eternal, definitely check out the Piloting Club in the Discord. And speaking of which, make sure you join the Discord. It's the best place to be for competitive Eternal. Then the last ECQ, three of the top 8 players were from the Discord. Long-time contributing members of the Discord, and almost a third of the top 64 are people from the Discord. So that's super cool to see. People that have been participating in our discussions are just doing really well in Eternal, and
certainly has helped me.
Yeah, it's brought a lot of interesting ideas to my mind too. I'm really appreciative of all the people that hang out in the Discord and make it as awesome as it is. There's so many contributors. I can't even list it. If you want to, go to figure out who the contributors are, just go down go to the Discord, look in the online section on the right side. Just look for people whose names are in pillars. Almost everyone just contributes a ton of help, advice for newer people and people that are already established. It's just a great community. I can't say enough good things about it. Yeah, thanks again for watching. Thanks again for joining me, Darkest Tempest. Thanks again for listening. Did I already say that? I probably already said that. Let's cut that out in post-production.
It's fine.
All right, that'll be it for us tonight. Enjoy playing Echoes of Eternity, everyone, and until next time, we'll see you in the friend zone. Friends of Eternal is awesome, but you know what's even more awesome? Our amazing patrons over at patreon.com. That's right, Friends of Eternal now has a Patreon where you can help support the content and initiatives of Friends of Eternal. If you enjoy FECast and you enjoy the Piloting Club and you want to join the people that make all this possible and sustainable, be sure to head over to patreon.com/friendsofeternal and consider donating. Every little bit does help. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time on FECast.